Hey, good afternoon, loungers. Gary B, the casual comic guy here. We got special guest today, Allana Langen, and we are going to do an interview with her about LARPing. So we're going to get to know her, get to know a little bit about the hobby, and just have a nice casual conversation because we don't do anything worked up here.
Please, it's a lifestyle.
All right, so Allana, just as an introduction for our audience, why don't you give them a general idea of what LARPing is?
So LARPing stands for live action role playing. I think the easiest way for anyone who's not familiar to picture it is historical reenactment. They might say that they're not LARPers, but they are.
I have a related question to that later, so... All right, So
basically, it's make-believe.
What is the main thing that the general public misunderstands about LARPing?
People think that LARPers are lame nerds who live in their parents' basement and have no social skills. Not true. I, for instance, no longer live in a basement. Or at my dad's house. I'm a successful adult. LARPing requires a lot of social skills, and the people in this community tend to be very creative, very fun, and very artistic. I have met people who can create masks, paintings,
outfits, I'm sure, costuming,
props. A lot of them, like, we all do, like, commissions for each other, too. So, for instance, of my character, in our community, we had a fad of getting a tarot card of your character.
So, on that note, though, why don't you tell us what your character is and what kind of LARPing your character is in?
So my LARP, not mine, but is called Dystopia Rising. It is a post-apocalyptic horror survival LARP with chapters in a number of states, including New York, New Jersey, Texas, North and South California, Pennsylvania, and a number of other states. It's actually still growing. So it takes place at campsites. Think of where you go for, campouts when you were a kid, except now there are zombies after you.
And how did you get into the hobby?
I got into it through a friend of mine and ended up, of course, meeting a lot of other friends there as well. It helps to have someone introduce you if you're on the shy side like me.
So you would say LARPing is more of a community-based event. It actually, you make new friends, it creates a whole community, a supportive community.
Yes. The theme of this particular community is a community that games as opposed to a gaming community, and the focus has always been player before game. So if there's something going on with you personally that interrupts game, interrupts other people's immersion, you take care of your stuff first. We care about you as the person, not, oh my gosh, you ruined this scene because you were having a panic attack. It's not like that.
Now, when you are LARPing and you're doing, is it scripted or is it just as it plays out, you guys are just playing it as you go?
So it's a mixture of both. There are storytellers at each site that write overarching plot lines, some of which extend to different communities at the same time. And there are also what they call mods, which are individual sections of story that occur at each event. That, if you're familiar with computer gaming, an NPC, people will have shifts where they play an NPC. So
Correct.
If you're completely new, you don't know if someone's an NPC or not. Once you've been there a while, it's like, oh, he's not wearing what he normally does. Like, oh, he's an NPC. But you don't know what's coming if they're going to, some mods are simply to add money to the community. So it's like, oh, hey, will you come guard me for 10 minutes? I'll pay you 10 cred. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. So it's a mixture of, it's very extemporaneous. But for instance, if you're interested in a certain plot, you can submit plot to the writers.
And is this done through a website?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys join through a website?
Yep, so there's a website.
So I will link that below in the video, so guys, you can look for that. And tell us about the website, Allana.
It's Dystopia Rising NY for the main one. Otherwise, just, I think, dystopiarising.com. So you can see a little bit you can see pictures of each settlement, a little bit about the settlement itself. Each of them have kind of their own flavor. Some of them, it's more interpersonal conflict. Some of them, it's more monsters. Some of them, it's political or religious.
See, monsters sounds fun.
Lots of monsters. If you like monsters, this is the place for you. We've got Zed. We're not using the Zed word. We don't say zombies, we say Zed.
But that's nice, because with a face like this, I don't have to dress up.
No makeup.
Just
Just like that. So there are raiders, zombies.
And this is just one kind of LARPing. LARPing can entail any of a variety of subjects and theme matter.
Yes. So Revolutionary War, that's LARPing. Society for Creative Anachronism, it's LARPing.
So what differentiates LARPing from reenactments and cosplay, if anything? Or is it just different titles to make the communities feel different from each other?
With cosplay, the focus is on creating the costume, but you're not necessarily in character. You might you do it to take pictures and, enjoy the artistry of it. Whereas with LARPing, you are playing a character. And that character...
So it's more about the immersion.
Yes. And that character could be a historical figure or it could be an original character.
And I can see where these hobbies blend into each other. Because you see cosplayers that are definitely into their characters. And then you see some that are just dressing up like Halloween for the fun of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you pick your level of immersion and go from there. Whatever suits your lifestyle, what you're looking to get out of it.
Exactly. Don't be a gatekeeper. No one needs that. We're all here to have fun.
So what's a gatekeeper?
A gatekeeper is someone who, for instance, says, oh, you're a fan of blank? Well, name me blank, blank, and blank. Basically challenging someone to meet their standards to be a true fan of something. And basically, it's just being a jerk. Because you think you're specialized.
You shouldn't be there to judge somebody.
Yeah.
Everyone's allowed to be there at their level of commitment and what it means to them individually.
Exactly. You don't need a certain amount of money or time to enjoy something. Let people enjoy things. So Dystopia Rising specifically tries to discourage gatekeeping. So there are we call the different races, for instance, strains. And they create a strain known as Americans, so that if someone did not have the skill, time, or money to create an entirely new outfit, if they just showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, you're American. You can play that.
Hey, so very inclusive, very welcoming.
Exactly. And there's also, they make attempts to do that across gender lines as well. So there are pronoun patches that you can elect to wear that they encourage people to wear, whether they're cis or trans, so that you can check that appropriately. And one of the nice things about it is that there's no mention of sexual assault at game whatsoever. It's not part of your storyline. It just doesn't exist.
Nice. So Dystopia Rising, you said? Mm-hmm. All right. How long have they been around? Do you know the history? How long they've been around, and how long have you been active with them?
I've been active for about 2 or 3 years. Dystopia Rising's been around for at least 10 years. This is its third kind of incarnation, so they've had game updates and rule updates. And due to the current situation, they have changed to an online platform through Discord.
Oh, very nice.
So currently, you can still game. And there's a simplified version of the rule book so that it's not as...
Their Discord is just Dystopia Rising?
They link it to... Basically, once you bought the ticket for an event, they post it the day of so that
perfect.
You can access it. And it has both... So how it's set up is a series of connected chat rooms, both written and verbal. So you can... use one or both if you'd like. One, the other, or both. So there's, for each room of the site, so for instance, there's like the campsite, an armory, a library, a dance hall, and it'll have a description of it, and you can plug in and listen to what everyone's saying. You can type, or you can be speaking to someone and then write out either like some gestures or other prompts.
So take me through and our audience through. If you're a new member, take them through what they could expect on their first day of LARPing and an introduction into it. Once they show up to actually do it, how do they find out where they're going to show up, and what happens that whole first day? So
if we were doing this live, which we hope to again soon, game begins at 10 p.m. on a Friday, and you would be directed to where to come for opening announcements, in which they would explain the basic rules, point out anyone who's new, And at that point, they also offer you a blue armband to wear your first 3 games.
Oh, nice.
It's entirely optional, but it gives people the chance to just indicate they're new. The zombies won't be as hard on you. Other people will be
Gives them a level of comfort to kind of get acclimated to the community. Okay.
And just review like the safety rules. And also, for instance, it's a lightest touch game, so it is a boffer LARP. So foam
what LARP?
Boffer LARP.
What's boffer mean?
So foam weapons are used at game, generally with a PVC core. The fighting in this instance is lightest touch, though. Oh, there you go. Okay. I've just injured you. And
I feel injured.
And some of the inclusive things they include there are also you can opt to wear an orange headband, which means there's no combat with you whatsoever. The most someone could do is point at you and say 5. You've got 5 damage.
Yeah, so you could choose your level of engagement to kind of protect any kind of personal bubble preferences.
Personal bubble and disabilities, yes.
Perfect. That's excellent.
Yeah. And
so it's a community that works really hard to meet anyone that's in a community at their needs and social level.
As is possible, yes. At the sites, they also have what's called med sleep. So with a doctor's note, if you have, for instance, you need to use a CPAP machine, you have PTSD, or there's some other reason why your sleep will not be interrupted, you can bring a doctor's note and be in a separate space where no one is there except the people who sleep there. You won't be... other than that, though...
All bets are off.
All bets are off.
And let me get to the next question here is, so what do you know about the local LARPing scene here in Rochester? What do you know about other options? Is it mostly just Dystopia Rising? And how big of a community is it here in Rochester?
I actually don't know. I'm currently a resident of Grand Island, the Buffalo area. I actually don't know what's available in Rochester.
Okay.
If there's a gaming store around, for instance, Paradise Games in Village Gate. The last time I was there, they had some postings for events like that. As far as Dystopia Rising, when I went to the national event a few years ago, I believe there were 7,000 people there.
Wow, so it's a large community. And like you said, it's through multiple states, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of people...
And always expanding, I'm going to assume.
Hopefully.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, with the loss of in-person gaming, it's a setback.
Well, I think that'll bounce back, because if there's one thing I've seen in these communities, like in my geek culture community and comics and stuff, we also congregate at the comic book store.
Yeah.
Because the need for community within that is strong, and I'm going to assume that that's the same in LARPing.
Absolutely.
You guys have a strong community need. You guys thrive when you're together.
Yeah, because this is where people come to meet their friends, and it's also...
It's a passion.
Yeah, like people from the New Jersey site, for instance, would be from all over the state, from New York. You might have people visiting from Florida. So this is the time to see their friends. And basically have a sleepover with them and get to show off their props, show off their costuming and their makeup skills, show off their writing skills.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they put a lot of time, effort in it. Who doesn't want to show it off a little bit when you know?
Exactly. And stay up until, as we say, stupid o'clock in the morning with your friends. And make sure that your friends are eating. And... one of the other things, I noticed that before there was any official shutdown, on their own cognizance, they said, we can't have this event. I know we planned this event, but I'm sorry, we can't have it. We need to move to a different platform.
Now, is there any kind of plan in place right now that they've announced to have live events again?
Not that's been announced. The New York chapter closed last October and had planned to be reopened in Ithaca, somewhere outside of Ithaca. I believe that's still going to be the site, but I don't think there's an official announcement on when it could reopen yet.
Well, and I'm sure they'll have all sorts of new rules in place once that happens as well. Think of all the cool LARPing masks you guys can make now.
We already did that. Yeah, we were ahead of the game, to be honest. When I'm in public and I cover my face and everyone stays away from me, it's like it really does. It's a little bit of cognitive dissonance because it just feels like other people are LARPing too. Right. Because my character is sensitive to sunlight, so she generally covers her face and head anyway.
Right, and you see people wearing all sorts of different masks now. So tell us, in your opinion, what's one of the hidden joys of LARPing? What is it? give to you in your life that's a hidden joy that you didn't expect?
I would say how hilarious it is for a horror survival LARP. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, you think it's all gonna be like grim, and it does get
all
grim,
macabre,
but like there's opportunity for a lot of hilarity. There's just all sorts of like in-jokes that develop about like someone who doesn't believe in whales. There are the strains of like Baywalkers, i.e. People from Boston, and Yorkers like hate each other.
And see, that's what community brings, because you come up with your own shorthand and jokes and
there was a character. One of my favorite characters was Legitimate Larry, a con man.
That's a great name for a con man.
It's perfect. I'm pretty sure he came his heritage as he had a brother named. His mother was Judgmental Judy, and he had a brother named like completely illegitimate Joel, I think.
And what was your character's name again?
Laska.
Laska, and tell us about your character.
So my strain, the Lysarians, have been living subterranean. So DR is set approximately 200 years after the fall, and records of the era are sketchy at best. So what caused it? You can have your own explanation. But Lysarians have been living underground, basically in tunnels for so long that they've developed.
And Lysarians are your race of particular vampires or something else?
Basically, we are no longer quite human. We are strains of infection that develop from humanity.
Gotcha. So you're an offshoot.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, almost like mushroom people, because at the 12s you will like regain some of your abilities, which obviously humans don't.
So explain to us some of the Lysarian abilities.
So some of the general Lysarian traits are sensitivity to sunlight, and we are known to be cannibals. Don't judge. If you've eaten soup in a town, you're a cannibal too. Don't judge. We all gotta eat, man. So they tend to be skittish, sensitive to sunlight, and more savage, which is hilarious because actually many Lysarians I know are printers, which goes completely against type, just because we all happen to go against type.
Well, that's kind of the point, is being something you're not, right? Being able to get lost in a kind of fantasy world and just... And it's just like anyone that video games. You're going into the video game because you just want a different experience and you want to enjoy the ride. And
and at the same
time... you guys control your own narrative. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, at the same time, we do at the end of the day all play ourselves. So when I decided to play Lysarians, because wait, I am very sensitive to sunlight. And also, I didn't want to talk a lot. So it's like, okay, I put on a cloak and I followed my friend around, and I didn't talk to anyone the first few games. I hid under tables, and since I'm naturally small and like blend in, like generally what people said when they saw me was, "Holy, I didn't see you there," like, or "Where did you come from?" And then eventually, when I got a little bit more comfortable with the atmosphere, I got drunk in game, sat down with a Yorker, and started talking crap about my boss. And that's how people started to get to know me.
So how long does it take someone, say, because you're pretty shy, how long does it take someone that's pretty shy to feel like they're part of the community?
I'm certain it varies from person to person. I came in with a number of friends, which really helps. If you're on the shyer side, you might also... so basically, you can either like pay to opt out, or you can do an NPC shift, and that can involve being a zombie or some other character who comes in to interact with the public. It can also be helping clean up. It can also be doing makeup. So if you wanted to come in and NPC the entire time, you can do that for free, and you can really see how the game works firsthand. You get breaks that everyone else gets, and can just be out of game when you'd like to be.
See, and that's something I never thought of. You guys have so many different levels of engagement there, from people doing makeup and costumes to support in other areas. So even if you don't want to be out, and you're not comfortable at that level yet, there's still other things you can do until you reach that level.
Exactly. You can be, you can help as a kitchen marshal. There are some people who will. We've had food plans in game where like you collect the number of orders and you actually like cook for everybody. And
now, are there fees involved with this LARPing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that all goes towards like the community, like them buying food and having people help with costumes, or
basically you're paying the writers, and those writers and story runners are available like 24/7. So they put a lot of work into this. pay your artists. So our story leads and the owners of the New York chapter are Casey and Tom, and they're both really very hardworking, very dedicated guys. And Casey also serves as a medic. So basically, if there's something going wrong at any time of day, these guys are available throughout an entire weekend, and they are running themselves really hard.
Are there different levels of fees and registrations that you can join, or is it just one?
So it's a lot cheaper your first time. I think it's, I don't want to promise
you don't have to quote prices. People can go to the website. I just want to, just to give people a general idea.
Yeah, so it's less expensive your first time, just so you can kind of give it a run. If you want to come and NPC the whole weekend, it's free. And then the prices from there vary on like how many hours you want to spend on your NPC shift. I had a wonderful opportunity thanks to my friend Vlad, who is the previous storyteller of the now closed Kentucky site. He basically helped me become a photographer. So I'll be doing the photography, and for 4 hours I generally won't stop walking because it's just like I see so many amazing things going on, like fights with half-fish people, and just people coming up to a defeated raider and offering them a hookah, and just.
And all these photos, they go up on the Dystopian website?
Yeah.
Very nice.
So that's my NPC shift. I love it, and I really want more. And lately, when I've been stressed out, I've just been making memes of people.
So, obviously, I think I'm going to ask you, but I think we have a pretty good idea what your favorite kind of LARPing is.
This is...
Dystopian LARPing, or have you dabbled in others?
I did spend one Pensic at... in Rome. So the Society for Creative Anachronism has a large event held at a Slippery Rock campsite in Pennsylvania. The site holds 20,000 people.
Wow. So fairly large. Yeah. That's a big event.
So I stayed with the Romans there one year and met some really wonderful people there. And that is not a lightest touch. That's the kind. That's a bit rougher.
Full on battle.
So in that, at least the unit I was with, your armor's insulated, but the weapons are not. The weapons are blunted, but they will absolutely do weapon stuff to you. Oh. So that's a different kind.
So probably not for a new person into the...
Not necessarily, no. I would say
DR want the soft touch getting in
nicer to walk into, because accidents do happen, and basically, and there's a lot of safety protocol around it. So again, orange headband if no one's fighting you whatsoever. You can opt out. There's also just a very nice hand sign system. So this is out of game. So if it's you have a question about rules or you need to ask a question, it's wait, so 5 fire damage. What would that do to me? How many mind points does it take to do that?
Oh, gotcha.
So you don't. So it kind of interrupts.
It's kind of like a pause menu in a video game.
Pretty much. Right. Yeah, exactly.
We can all get that.
And since there are a lot of very emotional role playing going on, you can check on someone without asking anything by just in front of your chest. And
if they're okay.
Yep. It's you walk into someone screaming at somebody, someone's crying, you're just not sure, but you don't want to stop everything.
Right, because you don't want to break a scene if it's part of a scene.
Exactly, something that people might have set up months ahead of time and is
you
a
just
big
ruin
part
it
of the story. So they can respond with, "Yep, I'm fine. I am not okay," or "I'm not sure. We treat this like that," and you just can approach them and say, "Hey, can I walk you someplace out of game?" And that's it. So it's very much about looking out for other people. Right. For me, I'm a very
safe community.
Yeah, they try. I mean, no community is perfectly safe, but they do try.
Right.
So for myself, some of my favorite scenes are where I'm screaming, crying, swearing. Because in real life, I'm a nice young lady, and I don't get to do that. But if you've ever heard me scream, you don't forget it.
And this is the it gives you a way to act out and get all your stress out sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You go home, you feel great, you're elated.
I sleep better in game than I sleep at home in general. And it's in the middle of nowhere where there are bears. Someone actually did see the bear in New Jersey on Halloween. Yes, and we also do regular human holidays just with a twist. So Ween is our Halloween, and give candy to trick-or-treaters, kids. Otherwise bad things happen. But everyone knows this, so they make sure that you have candy when they ask. And
so with these holidays within game, what's the community's favorite? It seems to act on.
Probably Ween, just because it's so on
It's on the
par.
kind of on that level.
Exactly.
You're still about dressing up and.
Yeah. So last time there were, red balloons around. There are, of course, the trick or treaters. There's, if you've ever seen the Halloween movie Trick or Treat, you probably have. Sam is around.
Oh, nice.
And there are other people known as Nemesis. So a Voorhees would be a Nemesis. And apparently, I didn't see this, but there was one person NPCing a Voorhees who walked completely into the lake and then walked out of it to get the full effect. And you have people like that who are like completely dedicated.
Is there a pinhead?
I haven't seen one, but leave it to Tom. I'm pretty sure Tom can do that.
Yeah, or anyone from Nightbreed. Yeah. Some of those Nightbreed monsters from Clive's fiction would be great.
Actually, I'm glad. So Gary actually was the one who introduced me to Clive Barker when I wore a wee lass, and I sent a lot of the pictures from Magica I sent to Tom, our storyteller, and he just loved the imagery and that style. He's a tattoo artist, so I wouldn't be surprised. Like, he could do a Christopher Carrion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he could do a Pinhead, especially with the amount of. Like, we have people who do commissions for masks, for props.
The commission community has really thrived with the whole COVID-19 thing. I've seen it blow up on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. It's a good time for a lot of people I know that do commissions. I'm not going to say it's a good time for all people to do commissions, because I'm sure a lot of them thrive being out in the community. But a lot of people I do know that do commissions have really thrived during this time. It's given them more time at home to work on commissions, and they've gotten a lot more commission work through it.
Yeah, I will say, like, this community is very supportive of artistic endeavors. So, let's see what I've commissioned. I have commissioned a tarot card, a painting from one of the other staff. Someone is now working on a Gam Jabbar for me, just for out of game. If you're familiar with Dune, it is the needle with a drop of poison on the end that's attached to a ring. Just because I felt like it. You gotta spoil yourself sometimes.
Right? So you talked about the scripts, and so every time you guys get together, is it a continuation from the last time you were together? The storyline carries forward, or is it just something completely new every time?
Nope, there is an overarching storyline. So, for instance, when we had to stop using the New York site, they wrote it into game. As the town was overrun, we made one last stand. It was super dramatic.
Oh, that's really cool.
We had to nuke the town and take a tunnel out.
Nice. That makes sense.
Wrote it into the script.
And why not?
Yeah, exactly. So it dovetails nicely. And now this leads to us establishing a new town, basically coming upon a settlement that's already done and saying, and one of the family leaders says, well, we want to kill everyone and make this our town. How do you feel about that? So in Requiem, for instance, the New York site, there are 13 family heads, all named after various killers. So we have Anastasi, we have Heiha, we have Zodiac, and all of them have Jones, have their own family heads, their own missions, their own motives.
Right.
So there's political intrigue. There's a lot of freedom with religion in playing this game as well.
Sounds like one big long horror movie. Just all the sequels just lead into each other.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of work goes into the writing for it, into like the crafting of the story, and you can be very involved with it and suggest story items, or for instance, if you want to learn something, or if you're bored, you can be like, hey, could you kidnap me, please? Or you could be someone who's like really on the outskirts of town and doesn't follow politics. It's like, you know what, I'm just here to sell booze. That doesn't affect me. This is a bar. Right?
Yeah. And no one touches me because this is where they get their drinks. Yeah.
Looking at you, Johnny Two Smiles.
So,
and there are also in-game drugs and alcohol.
Okay, nice.
Which do not go out of game, basically.
Right.
You get Kool-Aid.
That's okay. Like you said, it's pretend.
Yeah, but I love role-playing drunk because it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it's just like how people like me. People love drunk, sarcastic bitch Laskin. It's
a thing.
She's fun. Yeah.
I had a question that left me.
But I didn't talk a lot about my characters. So my first.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So for my first few games, again, I was very shy, so I just put on my cloak and didn't talk to anybody. But I had a caravan around me, which was nice. So I was a printer.
So how'd you come up with the character, though, before you got in the game? Did you work that out with a community member, or did you just draw it all up yourself?
Yeah, I had someone who was who had already started playing, who like introduced me to the rule book and said, these, you might like X, Y, and Z. So there's different, weapon skills, and as the skill sets change, so currently I can, I have a lot of scavenging skills. So I can scavenge for scrap, and I can also forage. And
so you're good for supplies for your group.
Yeah, and like the group dissolved, so now I'm on my own, but I'm becoming more self-sufficient.
Did you come up with your name, or did someone in the community come up with it?
I came up with Laska. I'm actually trying to remember how, but then because she was actually raised by Baywalkers as a servant, and they didn't have a name for it, so they just called her Laskarian. So like the babies shortened it to Laska. So she didn't really ever have a proper name. And then I found it in Russian. It means weasel, too.
Nice.
So admitting to a little bit of her cunning, and she's become a lot
more...
Well,
and her scavenging, too.
Exactly. Kind of bitter and vicious as time goes on. And I think that'll go some fun places. So for foraging, they've made it a little bit easier. So you can, if you're not, don't have the mobility to really, like, go off tracks, you can go for a walk on any of the paths for half an hour, and, like, you've done your foraging roleplay. For me, at the New Jersey site, it's filled with... What are you doing, sweetheart? It's filled with black walnut trees. So what I did was, like, I got a big rock, put it on a stump, put a walnut, and was smashing them open for half an hour and literally foraging. And just eating black walnuts.
Nice.
They're like, what are you doing? It's like, no, this is foraging. So we're kind of bleeding the lines between roleplay and actual foraging, but that's okay.
Excellent. So, to wrap this whole thing up...
Summarize, it's fun.
Correct. Yeah, what would you... what message would you like to get out to people who aren't familiar with LARPing or are kind of curious about getting into it?
Go to the website. Check it out. If it seems like something fun, bring a friend, because it's a lot more fun with a friend, and those friends are going to make other friends. If you're a creative type, if you're a righty type, if you're likes to stay up all night doing dumb stuff type, might be for you. Or exotic makeup, or just like to play pretend sometimes. One of the ways I like to explain it is if you've ever seen the musical Gallivant.
I have not. Okay,
so they're discussing what Princess Isabella what they do for fun in her kingdom, and she said, "Oh well, at evening we all gather by the elder tree and for a night of spontaneous theater." Nice. That's how I feel like describing it to people, and they're like, "So not much fun, right?"
Well, spontaneous theater does sound like what it is, right?
Exactly, but it is, and it's a lot of fun.
Except wherever you guys are is your stage.
Yeah, pretty much, and there's a lot of fun to be had. If you like to sell people your food, you can sell 20-something kids with no sleep cheese sandwiches all night, man. Like you'll make money. So it's a place, a wonderful place for like creative expression, making new friends. Not for everybody, but it is for many.
And relieving the day stresses, I would assume, or life stresses.
It is. I find it very healthy to, like, in a literal sense, like, leave my home and be someone else. Someone described it as an emotional vacation.
An escape.
Yeah, and I found it was very much that, especially getting to scream. I can scream so loud, and the world needs to, share that gift.
Nice. Well, Allana, I want to thank you for coming over and doing this interview, and I hope the people, my audience, and the community that might be waiting out there gets a lot out of this.
Write questions if you have. I like answering questions.
Yeah, leave questions in my comments section. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you write any questions for Allana, I'll make sure they get to her, and her and I could probably do a follow-up video answering those. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in our comment section. And until next time, guys, I want to thank my guest, Allana, and keep it casual.